Hi, Sonia Barrett here once again. And today I want to talk about a topic that I think is very significant, plays a huge role in all of our lives. And that topic is trapped by fear of the consequences. Everybody has dealt with that because that's one of the first um, levels then of programming that we do receive as children is to fear the consequences of our actions, whether it's going to be fear of the consequences where you're going to get a spanking or you're going to get punishment. The consequences, what's going to happen. So we all have this imprint or this program in us, and that actually traps us so much because there's so many things that we might want to pursue in our lives, things that we want to do in our lives, changes that we want to make in our lives, and the choices that we feel that might set us free. We are afraid to make those choices because of the supposed consequence that may result from quitting one's job, leaving one's relationship when it's not working, anymore. And when I say not working anymore, when one is really suffocating, when one knows that it's run its course. Some people are afraid of the consequences because what? In terms of relationship, uh, financial reasons. You don't want to leave because you have bought property together, you own so much together. And I've heard so many of those stories from people, and I'm constantly, it's just rather interesting to me. You've built all of this together, and so you don't want to, you don't want to lose it or let it go. And at what cost, though, to yourself? I understand that because what did I do more than 20 years ago? I walked out on everything that I owned. I was sort of like Tina Turner. All I wanted to leave was my name. Um, so I understand that. Now I understand also the challenges I faced in building my life from zero, from, and that's a very good term. I'm saying from zero because we don't really look at it that way either. When you're starting from zero, you can look at it as a 0 point field, where everything emerges from. It's that point where everything comes from. So you can look at it in that sense too, as opposed to looking at it as a demise, but it is a starting over. However, so getting back to the concept of consequences, we again there's an entrepreneur inside of some people, and they're afraid to try something outside of their job. They're afraid to make that next step because what? You're afraid of the consequences of failure. You're afraid of the consequences of hearing "I told you so," or the consequences of feeling like, oh, you couldn't do it, but you pushed against that. You were trying to push against the belief, and now there it is. I couldn't do it, and now you lose everything, because that's always this fear, is what we're going to lose. Consequences for us always denotes loss. Losing something, losing everything. And so I think that we really have to stop and examine where we truly are, once again, in our lives, and what we have convinced ourselves of as what the consequences could be to decisions that we need to make, changes that we need to make in our lives. Again, the job. Oh, well, I've been there for such a long time. I don't want to leave because of this reason or that reason, but I'm so unhappy. I am so unhappy, but I can't leave. I know people, I've met several people who walked away from their jobs that they'd been at for years. And because of that, of course, their pension, they knew that their pension was not going to be anything like it could be had they just waited the extra 5 years and there's the extra 7 years or whatever the case may be. But they knew, that is what they each have said to me. I knew that if I stayed try to stay for that period of time, my body would start shutting down. I would start having either major emotional challenges, or physically my body would start shutting down. Now they were able to go ahead and see that and go, you know what, I'm taking a chance, and I am, come what may, I am moving forward. And neither one of these people fell. They ended up sort of, in a way, I don't want to say reinventing. Was listening to an interview with William Shatner just actually today, and when the guy asked him about reinventing himself, and he said, "Why do we use that word, reinventing? I'm not reinventing myself. I'm just going down a different road." And I love that. I love what he said. So it's not really reinventing yourself, but it's the opportunity to experience, to go down a different road, or to experience something else. You're not tied to that one experience. You already know what that feels like, and maybe you have wrung it dry. But the fear of the consequences, we choke our children with it as well. Oh, well, you got to, if you don't go to college, this is, what's going to happen. Or you quit that good job, this is what's going to happen. And all of this, these consequences that we've got built up in our minds, are either really just built up in our minds, it's all in our imagination. We are processing the possibilities in our mind. We're imagining the, let's, for lack of a better word, then, the worst outcome. We're imagining our fall, our demise, all of that in our imagination. The only thing that is what's happening right now. As I'm constantly saying, everything else is a speculation. So you're really speculating on how things could turn out. You're speculating on the consequences that you could, as you would say, suffer the consequences. So there you have it. When we use the word suffer, so that's a given, that whatever the consequences are going to be, there's going to be suffering involved. And this is a very huge program. So somebody could also say, well, what about, people can't just go jumping up and impulsively doing what they want to do. What about people that, just impulsively decide to go have an affair? Well, you know what? Then they need to figure out what is it that is lacking in them that is driving them to need to do that. See, everything springs from something. So it's not just, this just happened, and impulsively jumped into this experience. There is something that was lacking there to begin with, that has driven, one to maybe dishonor that, because that's how we're going to interpret it. Dishonor the agreement that you've made with someone else. You've got to examine your own happiness. Maybe when you got into that situation, you realized, whoa, wait a second, I really don't want to be in this with this person. This is who I want to be with, whoever, whatever whoever that party is. But so we have to look at, again, the root cause of much of this, and realize, as this professor said, is that we don't quit enough. And I thought it was real funny. I happened to turn on the radio in the car a couple of weeks ago, and I didn't get to hear his name, but I picked up that part where he said that the studies they've done with numerous people have shown that people don't quit. They don't quit enough. And, well, quit. Yeah. Can you imagine if we actually followed how we felt, in the sense of what was making us happy. If we really just followed through with that, instead of overthinking what could happen into creating, these issues, that we see as a demise, a potential demise. What if it came from just a clear space of, I'm just not happy right now. I'm not happy with this. And maybe it's not even that you're not happy with your current situations, whatever those may be. We're talking working, we're talking all of it. But what if it's simply just wanting to try something else? You're not giving up anything, but you want to go ahead and you want to try something else. There's something specific that you want to try. What if you just said, I'm going to do it? Whether it be writing, whether it be acting, whether it be doing a movie, whatever it is that you're feeling this maybe hidden passion for. What if you just did that? See, if we did those things, if we acted on our passion in the sense of our creativity, or the things that we really want to engage in. Maybe I want to try to paint, to do art, to sing, to do music, to do whatever. Maybe if we fed that passion in us, um, some of the choices that we ended up making, where we did end up, as you say, once again, suffering the consequences. Maybe if we had fed that part of us, then we wouldn't have maybe gone down that other road, um, that impacted, other people in our lives. So I think when we examine again what we are looking at when we fear the consequences, we have to look in deeply at where that is coming from. Is it something somebody said to you? What is it that you are you're fearing about, all of that? And I know, when I did well, I've said it a number of times, but I know when I did the Ultimate Game Changer workshop, this was the one in January of 2014 at my house. If anybody hasn't heard that, Ultimate Game Changer, if you have an opportunity to, I would definitely check it out. I think it is available now on demand on Vimeo if you wanted to watch it there. If you want to own it, you can as well. But we ended up speaking about, again, the whole idea of money and the concept that we have about working, that you have to do this particular thing to have money. So we were looking at the science of all of that. And I know what people were saying is, that they were afraid to, I don't want to fall. I don't want to lose, everything. I don't want to lose anything. That's why I'm sticking to some of the safe methods that I've been operating by, because I don't want to lose everything. I don't want to fall. I've worked hard for what I have. And so, of course, we can't go into it here, but of course, I then had to really take that and go, lose what? Okay, so when we go back to the scientific aspect of everything, we go back to science, we go back to quantum physics, we go back to the observer effect, we go back to the fact that, it is perception based in terms of what we're crystallizing, what we're creating, what reality looks like for us. When we go back to those concepts that everything is a wave and a particle at the same time, and that what we see with our physical eyes, yes, it is there crystallized. It all looks very solid, very finite, but everything is showing up in the hologram based on the observer. If there's nobody there to observe any of it, is it really there? So we are observing our lives into being. And that's what we're interacting with. And we don't want that structure to be taken down. So when we look at that, we really understand it. And I say, but lose what? Lose what? It's a tough one, but technically, like I've said in the past for myself, when I would panic about certain things, I think to myself, what, what car, is it even real? What this, what that, what house, you know, I start taking it into a whole different space, in terms of what my brain and what I've crystallized reality to be, and what I have, been networked my self into, my nervous system into, my whole being into, to make my hologram, look enjoyable to me. It is my hologram, my chair, my desk, my cup, everything is in my hologram because I like it. Whatever like means, there is an attachment to all of it. And that we don't want to lose. So again, the consequences for us means that we're going to lose something. And if we can understand and look at the fact that, what we think we're going to lose is really just, it really is imagined. It is speculation. I have seen things go completely different when you can truly just surrender to the fact that, you know what, this is truly what I want to do. Not with the fear of the consequences, but I really do want to be happy. I really do want to move forward into doing this thing. I really do want to try this. You don't go, I really want to try it, but it's not what you do. You look at what you want to do. How do I feel when I say that? I feel excited on the inside. And you allow yourself to feel that feeling of excitement, not of dread of what could happen, but you embrace the excitement. And when we can embrace that feeling, we might not know how we're going to build it. We might not know where we're going to get the bricks from, or whatever it is that we need to make it happen. But what we do have is the feeling of what it feels like, what it could feel like if we did this thing we really wanted to do. It feels so incredible. That's what you want to roll with. That's what you want to go with. And let the consequences, that the idea then of the consequences, just let it go. Because once you line it up like that, guess what? Things can change incredibly, where you think, man, I can't quit my job because, but if you decide that you want to do this thing, guess what? A way gets made, and suddenly stuff comes seem like out of nowhere. Well, it shows up easier because there's no interference being run by your imagination about the consequences. The consequences won't have to run. The consequences are going to run and present themselves when you're so focused on that you are crystallizing that opportunity. And it is an opportunity like everything else, because if you go experience the consequences, that's because you still needed that opportunity to experience that, so you could tell yourself, man, I knew I shouldn't have done that, because I knew I was going to suffer the consequences. But what if you didn't tell yourself that? And you just really let go into the passion of and the excitement of something that you want to try. And I know I'll get some emails from people about, their jobs, about their, money situation. And we're always just keep remembering, whatever it is I'm focused on, that's what's crystallizing. That's what's stabilizing. It's the things that we are focused on, the consequences, the fears. That's how it all works. We're focused on all this other stuff. You expect to see a tree when you go outside. You expect to see some cars when you go outside. There's a lot of things you automatically expect because that's part of our reality spectrum, collectively and individually. So we see them. There are things that you don't expect to see, so you're not wired for it. And we don't see them. That's why some people see what we would call spirits, or other dimensional experiences that other people may have. Some people are more open to that. So how open are you? How open are you? All of these things we have to look at. Don't focus. It's not about focusing on the demise. It's not about focusing on the consequences, but it is about focusing on how I am feeling. Am I drained from just not being happy with whatever your circumstances are? Why am I still participating in this experience that is making me literally feel like the life is being sucked out of me? Why am I still doing that? What have I told myself are the consequences? People who stay also in relationships and they tell me they're there for the children. I know because I've been there, but then obviously I learned and left. People who do that, you're not doing it for the children. You may think that that's what you're doing, because if you are, well, if you say you're doing it for the children, it would mean that those beings came into this reality saying, I really want those imprints. I want to be loaded up with knowing what a dysfunctional relationship is. I want to be loaded up with knowing what it feels like to be in a relationship where it feels like there's no love here, or I'm being disrespected, or or it's a physically or emotionally abusive. That would be one reason why you're doing it for the kids. You might not realize that, but you're doing it for the kids. What exactly does that mean? Oh, so they can have both parents. Both parents that don't want to be there? We're all the product of different things in our childhood. And again, not good or bad. It's just what it is. So when we are aware, right, we can make different choices. I wasn't as aware when I was raising my children when they were little. Um, anyway, I won't go into that part, but children are incredible. I remember my older son said to me, I'm afraid, Mom, at 10 years old, I think, or 10, if we don't leave, I'm going to become just like this person. That's what this child said to me. How amazing was that, right? Took me a whole other year and a half to really make the choice to leave. Ran away, literally ran away. It was the happiest moment emotionally for me in many, many years of having knots in my stomach, just nervous all the time. Um, and I'm sharing that with you. If that might not be your situation in your relationship, but it could be with a job that you go into where you have knots when you get up in the morning because you don't want to go in there. Could be many things that you are dealing with. When I left, if you saw, I wish I still had that picture. When I left, when you look at my picture, was my driver's license picture, I looked beaten down, just completely, like it wouldn't even recognize me. And within a few months, I emerged as I started to look different. My kids even noticed it, started to look different. Well, that's how we age ourselves. That's how we do, damage to our vehicle, our vessel, because of all that it has to accommodate. It has to accommodate and process all of those emotions. So I think that's it for today. Anyway, I hope once again you've gotten some food from this. Maybe, you know, this is probably what you needed right in this moment. And I just wanted to share that with you. Again, I want to remind you, my website is spiritinformed.com, spiritinformed.com, and there's a tremendous amount of lectures and workshops that I've done that's available on the website. And there's also Vimeo on demand where you can watch some of those videos that is now uploaded there. And I think, oh, and don't forget the retreat in Mount Shasta coming up in August. And I'll be in New York in October, I believe, 2015, for whenever somebody watches this video, 2015, so October, I'll be in New York. And all of that information is on the website. And I'm also we're working on Canada, so I'll probably be somewhere in Canada this year. I hope to let you know very soon about that. Anyway, have an incredible next moment. Have the best day possible. Until then, take care.